Massenomics. Thanks for what you do with your podcast and all the rest. You're doing a great job. Hope everybody keeps tuning in. You get a lot of good info, a lot of insights, understandings of how to get strong, how to stay strong, how to use your strength.
You do a great job, dude. You make things better than they are in real life, I think.
If you don't follow Massenomics, y'all do it. Social media, website, everything.
Massenomics.
Welcome to Massenomics, the world's strongest podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Massenomics. Make sure you go visit Massenomics.com. There you'll find the rest of our powerful content. While you're there, check out our store and buy yourself some of that sweet Massenomics gear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Massenomics podcast. I am here. My name is Tyler. Next to me, as always, is Tommy.
What's up?
Across the way is Tanner.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And look who we have here. Professor Schanz is in the house.
Howdy, folks.
Hi, Austin. So this week we're just going to start diving in right away to the things we're going to talk about. Let's jump. Let's go to the non-Schanz topic first so we can get that out of the way because we want to give Schanz a little bit of space to run with what he's got here.
Sure. It's been a while since I've been on here. I got to get used to how it works again.
Ease into it. Don't be right in the spotlight in the first.
Listen, I'd just like you to go for 45 minutes now. And you're good. Tanner, we had talked a little bit about strengthlifting, which is basically a competition in the vein of powerlifting, but a little different.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of a legit thing. I think the federation is called U.S. Strengthlifting Federation. If you Google strengthlifting, it'll be like the first thing that pops up. But right off the bat, the biggest difference from powerlifting and strengthlifting is the events. So there's still a squat, of course. There's still a deadlift. But the middle event is not a bench press. It is a standing overhead strict press. So that is the largest difference.
Is that the only change?
No.
Okay.
No, that's
Would you
just
say
like
total game changer when you heard that?
I mean, it's certainly different. For someone that is a huge fan of the bench press, you're going to want nothing to do with this, I would assume.
Yeah.
Didn't they used to have? Wasn't the overhead press used to be an Olympic
that was a
weightlifting
part of
event?
Olympic,
And then
right.
they took it out because people were doing like the freaking limbo with
the back bend, where you're like.
So they would basically turn it into like this weird bend. So it used to be the clean and press, and then God, I'm gonna fuck this all up. But the events, there used to be like 3 lifts too. There was like the snatch, and there was the clean and press, and there might have been the clean and jerk, or just it was crazy. So you used to clean and then just press it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that used to be in the Olympics, and maybe just the press was another one. I don't remember. We're probably speaking out of line there, but
wasn't the whole reason they took it out was the safety because people were leaning back so hard?
Then it got questionable. I think was it actually an overhead press?
I think
because you were like
making it a bench press almost.
Well, it's just an incline press at that point.
And I don't know actually that leaning back on a press is probably actually all that dangerous, actually, because the way you do it, it doesn't actually end up on your back. Mm-hmm. Because if you even look now at how like the strongest guys in the world, you look at how Eddie Hall's that 475-pound axle clean and press he did. I think Dimitar did some 400-pound shit the other day. All of them have that big lean, and it's this weird mix of like a little bit of leg drive and stability, and then fucking kind of an incline position. Mm-hmm. They're way back gnarly, but it really is a lot of chest,
right?
Which is a lot safer for your shoulders. But it's kind of interesting. So, but did you hear anything on why they chose that lift over the bench?
Well, the biggest reason here, anyone that knows Mark Ripito, he is not the one that started this? He is not the starter of this federation, but this is strongly influenced by him, and he is friends with the people that.
Does he also smile?
Not that I know of.
Just curious.
Not that I've ever seen. But it is heavily influenced by him, but he did not create it. So anyone that's ever read Starting Strength, there's a chapter on the overhead press. He's a big advocate of the overhead press. He's not, I would say, against the bench press. He still teaches the bench press in Starting Strength, but if you were to ask him, I know he would say he thinks the overhead press is a a better lift generally, maybe a safer lift, and also a better test of overall upper body strength. I know I've heard him say that before. Whether I believe that to be true or not, I'm not sure. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. What do you guys think? What's a better ultimate test of your upper body strength, the bench press or the overhead press?
Of your upper body strength?
Yeah, that's kind of what he said. But
probably, but like
upper body strength, but it also requires your total body. I think it's where that comes from him. You know,
I would say it's better for total body, but maybe just upper body bench press, because you don't use the chest at all when you're doing overhead. And then with the bench, obviously,
chest, triceps,
shoulders, even your lats a little bit to control it on the way down. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I don't do enough overhead pressing to I feel like to really have a solid say in this, because I also feel like a big part of it that a problem is you get people that do push press and people that do jerks, and very few people actually, from what I've seen, do actual strict overhead pressing.
Yeah.
And this is in the competition of, so this is called the sport. I would say if you call powerlift a sport, we'll call this a sport. And if we want to separate enough to call it something different, but it's called strengthlifting, but the competitions aren't strengthlifting meets, they're strength meets. I've heard that before. Yeah. That's the correct nomenclature for that. Some other interesting differences: the deadlift event in a typical powerlifting meet, you can deadlift conventional or sumo. In strength lifting or strength meets, you can only deadlift conventional. Your hands have to be outside of your legs when you do the deadlift. And some of the reasons, curious to hear you guys' opinions on this, but some of the reasons for that I've heard is it's a more accurate comparison when you're comparing two people. It's basically you're comparing across the same lift. In powerlifting, there was a time the only thing that happened was conventional deadlifting. Sumo deadlifting didn't exist yet, and then someone eventually walked up to the bar and put their hands inside of their legs and decided they could improve range.
I had never even thought about, like, in my mind, sumo has existed as long as deadlift. And I think it was like Boris Chico, or how do you say his name? He had a post on Instagram, and I think he was saying it was like IPF Worlds in '91 or something, and he said, I think it was a guy from Japan walked up to the bar and did a sumo deadlift, and it was the first time he had ever seen that.
Everyone was like, "Oh, what is that?"
And the fact that
like seriously,
that's weird. Like just in my mind, they've always both existed.
But what they say is it's really two different disciplines. So
I want to back up before we get further into this. That scene where that guy walks into the deal and just stands with his legs wide, and grabs the bar and pulls up and like that. You ever seen the movie Semi-Pro?
That's
Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
He's the basketball player, the Afro, the Flint Tropics. At the end, all of a sudden, they lob the ball up to the only black guy on the team, and they do the alley oop.
Don't they do it
up and he dunks
repeatedly?
And they're like, the ref blows the whistle, and they're like, I think that's illegal. Probably. I don't know why. And I envision that's probably what happened the first time someone lifted sumo in a meet. They're just like, red lighted him and then couldn't quite quantify why.
It seems to match the rules, but it doesn't look
like you don't get to do that.
Yeah, but that's what they said at the time. There was talk, and they believe at the time there was a lot of talk that they should have just outlawed that right away when people started doing it. Yeah, because it is a different lift.
It is the biggest
it's like
variation.
having two squats.
Right.
It is the biggest variation you see across the big three.
Right.
Besides that, you'll see a wide grip or
I've
an
never
air grip
thought
bench.
about it too much before this, but the more I've thought about that, I believe it to be, it's a lip, just from a body or a muscular structure standpoint, it is a different lift. It is a different lift.
And based on, it'd be nice to because these things are documented now, and I'm sure someone has looked into this, to actually dive in and see the body type that it favors. But if I remember correctly, I thought I read something in IPF Worlds last year, under what's the weight class, 1 or 205, under 205 you're getting a crazy high percentage of people pulling sumo, and then over that people aren't pulling sumo as much, and it's okay, so is it a small person's lift?
Probably
you know?
a short person.
A short
is
person,
probably
yeah.
what it is more than anything.
Anyone listening to this that is a sumo,
They probably think we're
they're
bashing
gonna
on
be
us
like,
on it.
you guys are idiots. Of course, sumo is anyone that's what they're really good at. They're gonna
Right.
support it.
I don't
Anyone
care
that-
either. I suck
yeah.
at deadlifting, so I don't care either way. Just
But I don't know. That kind of I can wrap my head around that.
But strongman has taken that position of
Yeah,
sumo
I don't know.
deadlifts.
Yeah.
Sumo deadlifts aren't a deadlift.
Yeah.
you
To
know.
me-
Technically, this, like even CrossFit as a competition don't allow
sumo deadlifting.
You know.
To me, that has Ripito written all over it. Like,
Yeah.
that's his influence. Like, if
Yeah.
you read about even his conventional deadlift, like, if you get your butt down and kind of squat, he hates that. Like, when
Yeah.
he talks about
No.
performing how to deadlift, like, he wants those hips high.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't
Well,
know.
I
To
mean,
me, that seems like
Even
Ripito
when,
influence
like
there.
when I teach the sumo deadlift, I teach it as a basically as a squat, but it's a squat that is really dependent upon mobility. Like I don't let people take the sumo position
And then conventional
and then hinge.
Yeah.
The sumo, I will only allow that Yuri Belkin fully upright position, which means they start from high blocks, and then the blocks can come out until the weight is heavy enough to where it pulls them and they have to hinge it up. Then that's as far as you're allowed to do that. And you work that squat, that jump, like that has value. It carries over to lots of other things, but I do see people take the sumo position and then fucking get pulled forward, and it's like you're just standing with wide legs and narrow
And
hands
doing a conventional
and doing
deadlift.
a conventional
Yeah.
deadlift, but the ones who are great at it don't do that.
Yeah.
Very true.
But that's why I just take it that way. But it is interesting though that you do say that it is two different.
Does
things.
CrossFit in the competition in the games? They don't allow sumo either, do they?
I've never ever seen it, and I know that they don't teach it. They don't at all.
And I can also see the standpoint of it's the same thing because the goal of the deadlift, there's a weight on the ground, a barbell, you pick
Much
it up.
like the bench. Here,
Yeah.
this is. I will translate this a little. I will defend it a little bit for the competition in that you can have a super fucking gnarly arch in your bench.
You can.
You can grip as wide or as narrow as your anatomy favors the most. We don't have any requirements on bench. What if you're super short? You have very short arms, and yet you grip the bar on a bench all the way out to as wide as the rack goes.
Well, you can't. You have to be on the rings.
Well, but as far as that moment,
okay.
as far just as that far, and so like you can go, that restricts your range of motion. And you can arch. The arch is the other thing that they let slide. Like you're moving the bar 4 inches. Some people, some have to move it a lot. I don't know. I don't know that you'd be hard pressed to delete the sumo now.
Going back to
yes.
what you're talking about, having a restriction on how far you can put your arms out, maybe they need a restriction for the sumo. It'd be something.
But I think the thing is arms outside. The designation is arms outside the legs.
Yeah.
Like that's
that's how they're limiting.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, I guess I was just saying if you wanted to allow both, like when people try to restrict or like decrease the range of motion, they get their legs really
But
wide.
then it becomes weird relative to height, even though it probably still only benefits short people. Like I couldn't pull sumo when I do pull sumo, my toes are if my toes slipped and I put the bar down, I would fucking lose a toe. Like I am all the way out to the bar.
Like now,
or to the
some of the
plates.
craziest sumo lifts you see, like, and I'm not talking like Yuri Belkin or like Kaylor Woolham or any of those guys, but like you will see some really crazy sumo deadlifts on Instagram, and like they tend to have like some reoccurring themes in them, and it's like one, the person is very short, they have an absolute maxed out width on their stance, they're using a deadlift bar, which gives them more on their stance. They have straps in probably narrower onto the smooth even.
Their arms have been surgically lengthened.
And then they have the whippiest bar with the widest plates.
Yeah.
And by the time the whole thing completes, the bar's gone 6 to 8 inches off the ground. And it's like, yes, I get it. Yeah, you did it. But it's like,
It's different.
It is. And it's like,
It's one of those things that's like your mom's proud of you, your girlfriend's proud of you. You worked probably pretty hard. But like, I don't know. So anyway, back to the strength lifting thing.
oh, we were still talking about that.
But something else that you said that I've heard people talk about the bench press and the rules of the grip width. Mm-hmm. So some
for
people
a short
think
person
right.
going all the way out
well,
to the
it's
range.
different. It's
See,
different.
and
If
that
a
is-
130-pound woman versus a 300-pound
Oh,
man,
not
they're
even
the
that.
same
A
standard.
100 and what's the smallest weight class for women? Like 98 or 101.
Yeah.
They can grip the bar as wide as Blaine Sumner,
and
which is
and
crazy.
not only that,
Yes.
they do.
yeah, and they do because it's a mechanical advantage. Whereas the 250-pound lifter or whatever,
Which is probably, for aside from the general like anatomical reasons, like probably why a super wide stance sumo is beneficial for a short person. If you're a 385-pound power lifter, like moving your feet super wide, like
Well, just
you're
getting
probably
your
already
belly.
6'4", so it doesn't like that's not that wide to you. It's not that great of an advantage. Whereas if you did have narrow feet, you get to push up against your power belly anyways, which probably is better than just like so the advantage of going wide feet all the way out to the plates, just like for a lighter person on the bench, like it just
it's
gets you
less
further.
of an advantage
Yeah.
for the big man.
Yeah.
But all those things we're talking about, the bench press, is all a part of what they talk about of switching this to the overhead press, though.
Which makes
so you
sense.
get rid of all that BS. They even talk about the grip width on this because you can take on the overhead press. They'll you put your hands as narrow or as wide as you want to, because if you put your hands out here on an overhead press,
You're at a
you have
big-
no tricep strength.
Yeah.
You're in it's a bad position. Like everyone's strengths just dictate where they're going to go, and there's no big advantage to putting your hands way out here.
Yeah.
And there's no big arch you can get off of a bench. So there's kind of some points to be made there. All this being said, I really like the bench press. And,
I just like bench. I mean, listen, like there's a lot of ways a guy can get big shoulders, but big pecs, cash checks.
big
like-
benching is fun.
Does
Like,
any
it's
other
hard,
lift really even matter at the end of the day?
Listen, I'll tell you what. I'm a big guy, and nobody comes up to me,
Like, how much
ask
do you
right
squat
away
or
how much
deadlift
how
or-
much can I overhead press?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because that's probably my best lift. Yeah, I wish they would.
And even if you told them, they wouldn't really even understand what you're saying.
Is that a lot?
No,
Like, is that a lot?
We've said it before. When people that aren't necessarily all that into lifting as much as we are, they just ask you, how much can you lift? Like that's a thing I bet.
Yeah, I've
people
been asked
ask
how
you
much
that
can I
all the
lift,
time.
and I'm like, I lift
All
a
of
lot.
it?
Yeah. But what they're asking is how much can you bench press?
Basically.
That is like almost 90-some%
But
of the time.
instead,
they're
what I
asking.
say is whatever weight of any lift I lift that is the heaviest, and they can think that that's how much I bench.
Okay, Dr. Seuss.
Like you just tell people your deadlift, and then they're going to go around and be like, "Did you know that?" If someone comes and says, "Tanner, how much do you lift?" You'll say, "Oh, about 700 pounds," and they're going to be like, "Did you know that Tanner benches 700 pounds?
Okay.
Bad shoulder and all."
Another thing, there's Fletch.
Somebody,
Hello there.
this motherfucker.
Have a seat at the table.
He's just gonna.
Let's get him a mic.
He's gonna smell some butts and head on out.
The judges.
Fletch, not Schanz.
Well, you can smell some butts too if you want to. But
No thanks.
the judges are taken out. They are not a part of the competition. Their job is to judge. So what I mean by that is, in the bench press and a powerlifting meet, the judge is a part of the lift.
Down, up.
There's a command to go down. There's a command to press. So your lifting is sometimes changed or dictated by the judge's performance.
Yeah, they'll set the pace for sure.
By how fast he chooses to go. So in the overhead press, that's gone. It's just press it. And when you're done, your job as the lifter is determined when you've locked out the overhead press and bring it back down. At the end of the lift,
Oh, then you
the
find
judge,
out if it was
yeah,
good. Or,
the
okay.
judge determines it.
Okay.
It's your job as the lifter to complete the lift to what you think is completion, and then the judge judges it.
I think that is a cool take on it, because that is for a lot of people going into a powerlifting meet, a big source of anxiety is when I get the weight out of the squat rack, do I stand there for 1 second? Do I stand there for 5 seconds? And the answer is it depends on the judge, and it also depends on you, and could even depend between lifts too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they might see your feet fidgeting a little more and decide to keep you out there longer.
So what they say about the squat, like what you're talking about there, the squat begins in the rack. It's your job to on-rack the weight, walk it out, squat it, come back up. Squat it, come back up, and the lift is not completed until you've re-racked it on your own. So
So what?
the judge, there is no command on the squat whatsoever either. So you get it, you complete it, you re-rack it. Then the judges determine whether you hit depth, and
Is
and
there
whether
a
you did
requirement that you take your time, that you set up, or can you just step back, go down?
it. Not really. But I mean, if it's going to look really weird, I think the judge is going to they would still have the ability to red light you. I don't know that really exactly if there is. I guess you got the rules up. Maybe there's something I'm missing on that. But as far as I understand it, it's up to the discretion of the lifter to do it properly, and if they do not do it properly, if it looks exceptionally odd, then you would hit a red light at that point after it's completed.
This is interesting here. Let's go through the rules on the squat.
Yeah.
I just have it pulled up
Yeah.
right now. The bar must be removed from the racks in position assumed on the platform at least 2 feet from the racks.
So you have to walk it out.
Yep.
That
Or
2 feet?
or
Yeah.
a distance sufficiently removed from the racks to ensure the safety of the lifter and the spotters. So,
Okay.
so I suppose if it's 1.5 feet, they're like,
Yeah.
listen, you weren't 6
Right.
inches.
Yeah.
It's your job to do it like what a
Convincingly.
sensible human being would.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm ever 2 foot back. So I suppose they're just reasonable.
Yeah.
No contact with the rack until the bar is replaced. The bar must not be more than 1 inch below the top of the rear delts. The
That's
bar
pretty
must-
specific.
That's
That
very
is a
specific.
yeah.
Meaning, like, you can't have it way down on the shoulder. You can't be that low. There. I mean, it's the delts on
Yeah,
the strap. So, like,
yeah.
it really is.
That's a
Held
that's a
horizontally
starting strength.
Yes, that's just like you
Rip
need
it
to
all
squat the
over
way
it.
like
Ringo
I don't
tells you to
necessarily.
squat.
I'm not real interested in that particular
No,
bit
but
there.
they're like, yeah, they're like some sort of palms distal to the wrist. So your palms have to touch the bar.
That's
So basically it.
that's another rip toe thing for anyone
Yeah.
that's so they're saying, people will put this
Yeah.
barely touching
Yeah.
Ben Pollock.
Ben Pollock.
He
If you
has
ever see him
his
squat,
elbows almost in front of him.
Yes, and is just
Isn't
in
that
the
weird
tips
though?
of
If
his
you
fingers
like,
around the
I
bar.
have to be very tight and locked into the bar. So I can't do it.
I mean, it's not
loose.
physically possible for me to do what
Yeah.
he does.
Like,
There's no
I just
way.
can't. Well, I just can't do it. I can't squat with my hands loose because I need to
Yeah.
be. Everything needs to be on.
Well, and there's a
usually
lot of
crank
things
on the
that,
bar.
like, looking at him, you, like, any person, you would say, don't do that.
Yeah.
But then they'd be like, well, what about him? And
Yeah.
you just have to be like, well, there's an exception to every
Yeah,
rule.
Starting position must be upright, knees and hips fully extended, with the chest up. It just must be obvious and under control before the descent starts.
See,
So
and so that's what I kind of thought. Like, it just has to look right.
yeah, starts in the bar, leave the racks, hips lowered, top surfaces,
Break
both
parallel.
the legs, the hip. Yep. Finish position same as the starting position. Before the bar is racked. When the finished position is obviously secure, the bar must be replaced on the rack. Then the bar must be walked back into the rack without the help of the spotters.
I literally think Ripito wrote these rules. Like, this is his writing.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah,
those
like-
are starting strength pictures and everything
Yeah, and he
too.
basically like it even sounds like like a catty way to explain the rules. Like any touching of the bar by the spotters disqualifies the lift. They can steady the racks. Once the bar is above the uprights, spotters can help guide it safely down to the hooks. So yeah, thumbs do have to be around the bar
on
on the press. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is.
I'm not going to read all of that,
No.
but I assume that's
One other really really interesting thing, not about any one of the lifts in general, is the weigh process for the classes, the weight classes. The weight classes use the not the IPF weights, but I think the old standard
yeah.
traditional weights. But the difference is you do not weigh in prior to the meet, which weighing in prior to the meet encourages extreme weight cuts.
Yeah.
Someone wants to lift in the 220 weight class, they walk around at 240, they do an extreme water weight cut, make it 220 just for that 1 minute to hit the scale, and then
Blow
try
up.
and blow
Yeah.
back up to their weight, especially with a 24-hour weigh-in,
Yes.
which is a lot of these. There, once you complete your last deadlift of the day, you walk immediately from there to the scale and weigh out.
Okay, I've heard about
Yeah.
way outs before.
You weigh
Interesting.
out from that's a really interesting thing, and I like that. I think makes a lot of sense. You
Yeah.
know, that's because then you
You are judged for what you are on the platform.
Because someone these days, they're in the 220 weight class. The dude weighs 245 pounds.
Yeah, see, I feel like the whole issue here is that's fighting the problem of 24-hour weigh-ins.
Yeah.
And I could be,
24-hour makes
I could be wrong,
extreme.
but I don't think people are going a 2-hour weigh-in, which is your standard weigh-in, cutting like 15 pounds and then blowing up 15 pounds in 2
hours.
You can't tell me you're going to have a good day of lifting.
No, but there's probably some 5-pound water.
Oh yeah, and I think 5 is and 5 is fine, and like that's people are always going to do what they can to be competitive, but like this is just stopping the 24-hour weigh-in madness.
I think it's really interesting though. You get done your last deadlift, you go weigh in, so that's what you are judged on what you literally weighed while you're lifting. But yeah, in like a 2-hour weigh
if I had to guess, I would actually say the meets that I've done, I probably weigh less at the end of the day than I do at the beginning of the day.
That's
because
what a lot of people say too.
It's so hard to put. I mean, you're just going and moving and warming up, and you're not sucking down food. And most of these things take a whole day to do, and then you're nervous, so you're peeing way more than you normally would. If you have other situations, you might have other fluids coming out more. Yeah, that's interesting though.
Yeah. Those are the biggest differences that I can kind of recall, but so quite a few differences. There's certainly some similarities, but I think basically, Ripto and whoever else is behind it, they took all the things that they kind of don't like about powerlifting and then just made their own thing. Another thing they said they think the name powerlifting is really stupid because the squat and bench and deadlift are not displays.
Oriented
they're
about
not technically displays of power in any way. Like power has a speed component, and
they're
all
like the sport of Olympic weightlifting is
more power. That's powerlifting.
It's more
really.
powerful than that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Equipment: no elbow wraps, knee wraps can be used, wrist wraps can be used. That's about it, and a belt. Yeah.
So they think the word strength applies much better to
knee sleeves that fit so tightly they cannot be easily removed solely by the lifter are not allowed. That's fairly ambiguous.
Yeah, that's tough.
Because I think with that would happen.
Exactly.
I read one time that when SBD first became a thing, that is quite a bit different knee sleeve than a reband.
Yeah.
And when did they hop on the scene? Like 5 years ago, maybe. I think it was at one of the World Games, and one of the teams, if I remember this correctly, they were using plastic bags to get their to slide knee sleeves on, so they could get knee sleeves that were so tight that they were literally
like wraps.
borderline on knee wraps. So you were getting a competitive advantage, and that's where the rule came from. Of like,
and it'd take like 4 people to
they'd have a whole team of people pulling these things on.
For any rule that exists, there's always going to be people trying to.
And especially with powerlifting when it is just, a % can be a lot,
right? Yes. So that's that. What are you guys' impressions generally, like this versus powerlifting? Or
I think it's cool that it's different enough that if someone's interested in powerlifting, they could very well be interested in this too. And also, if you don't care a whole lot about powerlifting, this might be the thing that makes you want to get involved in some type of strength sport. So I think it's cool.
More or less accessible than powerlifting, just generally speaking. If there's a meet, is it easier for the average person to come into this?
I think the biggest restriction at this point is just its lack of popularity, and if you don't live in probably California, it's not accessible.
But if there was a meet here, is it easier for the average person to come? I just, in my opinion, like the average person still is much more aware.
I guess
more
the
people
comparison is bench press or overhead press.
Yeah. When it comes to the average person,
the average
I still
person
think
isn't pulling sumo like.
You're
most likely.
Right.
The average person doesn't fucking deadlift, but
I also don't think it's different enough to really set itself apart. Like, people are gonna be like, check out this new thing. It's crazy. It's different, and whatever. It's like it's really the same. Pretty much.
It is just a different. It's just kind of a different set of rules.
What if you just had powerlifting, but you set the weights on fire? Like that'd be like, guys, we gotta fucking do this.
For the general person, this is no different whatsoever.
Oh yeah, for the general person. Yeah.
They're like, well, that's the same. You did the same thing, and they're like, one was a bench and one's an overhead, and I was like, I guess, but everything else.
and even for the general person, powerlifting and strongman other than looking different, are probably this. Like you're picking up weight. So what is different about this?
Term for the
well, you remember that was it Arnold in that Born Strong documentary was referring to Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, and
as
Hathor as powerlifters.
Yeah.
We're like, this is a fucking documentary about the sport of strongman.
And you're Arnold
Schwarzenegger. You host the second biggest, arguably maybe the actual biggest strongman competition and series in the world. And your powerlifting events are way secondary to the strongman you promote, and you just don't even know the difference. Fucking A, Arnold.
Like, it is funny. People do not know the difference of that.
No.
So looking at the spectrum of things here, it is kind of interesting because earlier in the year we talked about something else. It was that God, what was that even called now? The power building. I think it was like power building, and I never even heard how that panned out. So I have to assume
find the results.
I have to assume it was a total failure because it even like Larry Wheels, big name guys did it, and they didn't have a thing about it on their social media.
It was like a combination of bodybuilding and powerlifting. Like Dorian
Yates
were
testing like your fucking like
you were like maxing out on machines,
and then they're also like measuring your waist versus your chest, and like there's a ratios
and then it was all put into like a formula they developed, and that was how you got your score.
So your weights weren't of equal points compared to. It was basically if you were Dorian Yates.
No, that's
how you would
the
win.
perfect scale. The perfect score was Dorian Yates, and it was based off of him at his peak, and it said he's the only person to achieve that score. So it was like bowling. Like a perfect score was like a 300, and Arnold at his prime was like a 240, and it says like the only person to achieve a 300 was Dorian Yates.
Your first name had to start with a D. Your last name has to be Yates.
So then, looking at the scale, though, we have that, which is kind of over in crazy land a little bit, and then you have your Olympic lifting, which is very different than powerlifting, and then you have this thing that kind of sort of has that overhead element to it. And then, you have your powerlifting, and then from there you have your strongman. So, I mean, it gives you a few different shades in the spectrum of things, but probably nothing completely mind-blowing.
Not a single thing in here about drug testing.
I'm not sure about the rule on that.
I
was curious, actually. I've never heard. I don't know.
See, it sounds like if they're this small of a thing,
that's
probably doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter, or don't have a budget for it. Like, because, I mean, someone's got to pay for those drug tests.
Has Ripito ever taken a stance on
I've never heard him say anything either way. Do you know?
I don't. No, I don't think I remember him saying anything one way or another.
He sets a 5. And I know that he likes hip dry.
And I also don't think he likes
whiskey.
Anything else in the world. He's probably really nice. No, I don't think so. I've heard him in interviews. He's not very nice.
I heard him go on a rant about they were trying to sort of nationalize personal training certifications. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but I heard him on a podcast one going about a 20-minute rant about how much he hates that.
Well, he hates like those typical certifications.
Right.
They are the worst.
Does he have his own like personal training certification?
He has a coach's starting strength coach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's actually quite a few. Like it's a thing. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of them out there.
But it's actually probably not a bad fundamental place. I'd rather have that than like an NASCM, frankly.
No, for what the name is and what it is, starting strength, it's for taking people, it's not geared towards people that have been powerlifting for 5 years. And like, his programming isn't designed for that. And I believe they would.
Which is a real thing because a lot of people, I mean, training an advanced athlete is nothing like training teaching someone how to squat in the first place. Like you're on like a completely different field.
Right. And that's what some of his rules that get criticism, he says, I just have to make it so clear for these people starting out. Like, so I'm going to say, this is how you need to hold your hands.
And that is why all of his rules are hard, fast rules. And I suppose you get into a situation because you're dealing with that will work for 95% of the people.
Yeah,
and that's kind of why I think it is built that way. Where there's not a lot of flexibility because if you come in with everybody's special, it's like that's fine, but you'll never get it. So just stuff everybody into this box, and then like round out the edges as time goes on. But you have to get to move first.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things like you need to know the rules before you break them. Like you don't just do whatever you want whenever you want because like you said, you're special and your body's made different.
Well, what happens is then what you end up with is people. Well, frankly, like if everybody started to squat Ripito's way, right? What's going to happen is most of those people are going to start getting a little bit stronger. Really, all of them will.
Like
And
just
that-
just
yeah,
people that
just
aren't.
generally. Your anatomy is going to dictate your ability to progress a little bit, but you'll get better, and then you can make some changes from there.
Yeah.
And so I do like that it is standardized and it's not extreme. And
Right.
that's- if it was really extreme, it'd be a different story. But yeah, I see it all the time. People come in and their squats are a little bit. And you can get really, okay, well, let's try this for you. And I kind of just go to like, all right, well, you're going to start feet here, you're going to start feet here. And then we're only going to deal with problems as they come up. I'm not going to just like be like, oh, well, you look like
Specialize
this, so let's
everything.
start
Yeah.
you here. Like, you ever see Marissa Amda squat? I
Oh, yeah,
her
their
fucking
feet
heels
too.
are almost touching.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
6 inches apart, maybe.
And but to come in and be like, oh, well, you look like that's how you should squat. You'd be fucking out of your mind. What happened? So let's just pretend that a person with her build and her proficiency just came in totally new. Be like, okay, you're gonna squat with your feet, shoulder, hip width apart, and we're gonna do it this way. And then you'll always be making changes. Be like, bring your feet in a little bit after 6 months. Oh, that got a little bit better. We work in that and bring them in a little bit more. Well, that keeps getting better. If you keep bringing them in and they just keep getting better, that's how you end up there. Well, usually what happens, though, honestly, is I'll bring someone's feet in, and then it'll be like, that's a little better. And then in a few months, bring them in. Oh, that's worse. Let's go back. And that's really all it goes. So I do like that it is very cookie cutter because it is the beginners. You got to cover all the bases.
And that's
right
what it's
away.
geared for, and I think people get that.
And they're not strong enough to fucking hurt themselves at that point. Like, you can barely move. Let's just move.
Yes.
That's what all we have. I do have one thing though with the press stuff on there is, do you guys find like how hard is it for you to get better at pressing overhead?
I've only gone through one time in my life of actually training the press, and I felt like I was continuing to get better at it over time. Like
But how much did you tack on?
I probably put from like a 1 rep max standpoint.
Yeah. Even if you didn't test, like what do you?
That was like that was a beginner time or much more beginner time in my training. I think my 1 rep max probably went up 25 pounds.
Okay.
Maybe 30.
The percentages are the small. With the press
in my
are
opinion, that's the smallest.
Yeah.
That's the smallest. That's the lift that I'm the best at, probably relative to like, just like whatever. Like that, I'd be the highest percentile of that compared to my other lifts.
Yeah.
And I fucking don't get any better at it. Basically at all, to the point where I don't really train it. I don't get much. I train it a little bit, and I don't get worse at it. I could train the shit out of it, and I might put on 5 or 10 pounds in a fucking year, and then if I don't keep that up, I'll regress back to where I'm at now. So it's just not worth the effort.
Yeah. I don't think it's completely unlike benching in the way that someone that's been benching a long time, like your benching progress can be like painfully slow at times. You'll always have times where maybe you'll put 5 or 10 on it, but like to like really just be making breakthroughs like you could with a squat or deadlift, it's a lot harder to do that with bench.
With my overhead pressing, like I've been bad at it, but I've always felt super uncomfortable doing it. Like the weight does not. I mean, even if it's light, like it doesn't feel good going over. Like it feels restricted, and I've never had like terrible shoulder mobility or anything. And then I ended up hurting my shoulder, and I had like an x-ray done, and they give your acromion process or how it's situated. They have like 3 stages for it. They can 1, 2, or 3, and like if it's at 3, you're like a huge candidate for shoulder impingement. So I wonder if some people who struggle with like overhead pressing, if the physical shape of their shoulder just doesn't allow them to get good, solid, and feel comfortable with it, and have
just produce
good
power.
motion, and produce power exactly. So
because I see people that come in, and you can't even really tell from looking at a person or body type. You kind of can with benching a little bit. Like there's not a lot of people that you're going to look at their body type and get just like really surprised. Not to call him up, but like your brother, like Ryan. You look at Ryan, you're like, probably not a great bencher, just because of his body type. You can kind of see that. Someone like Ross, though, you look at Ross and you go, Ross is probably good bencher.
Yeah, like if he couldn't bench a lot, you would
Ross
think there's
couldn't
something
bench a
wrong
lot,
with
you'd be like, what the fuck, Ross? But like for me, I think pressing overhead is like not even from a body type standpoint, like deadlifting. Yeah, there's a genetic component to being good at deadlifting, but that's your leverages. For pressing overhead, I think some people you're just good at it or you're not.
Yeah.
The thing I used to always hear is like, if you want to get better at deadlifting, go back 10 years and deadlift start deadlifting then.
Yeah.
If you want to be better at overhead pressing, you need to be born better at overhead pressing.
Yeah.
One thing that I think about sometimes too, though, is if say there's a lift I don't like as well, and I think I'm bad at it, or I think I'm bad at it. If I treat that as a secondary, if out of the three, if I treat squat as my worst lift of the three, and I train it like it's always my worst lift of the three, then it's probably going to be the worst lift out of the three.
Yeah.
So if it's like, and if I treat overhead press like, well, that's not a main movement. My bench press is my real movement, and I never train. You never put the focal point on it like it is your bench press or your deadlift or whatever you like doing or whatever you do actually do. If you treat it like it's not primary, then you're probably never going to have, if it's always like the third thing you do.
Yeah.
And if it's never your focus program thing, like it's probably never gonna. And I'm guilty of that stuff. Like the saying,
everyone
like, just
probably
thinking
is.
about myself even is where I'm coming
and
from
then
You
on
just
that.
want to do it less.
Yeah, right.
I know with deadlifting.
Right.
Like the only way I got any better at deadlifting was like I just was so insulted by how bad I was at it that I really, really, really tried really hard at it.
Right.
And then I got it up, and then I was like, I'm gonna pull back on deadlifting a little bit now because I still don't enjoy it that much. And now it's that's probably suffered.
Right.
But I still think you can kind of only prioritize one thing at a time anyways. Like you can still put in the work, but the effort really gets piled into one thing.
Yeah.
You only kind of move one needle forward at a time. But speaking of that, Tanner, we had talked about your inability to bench, not lack of strength or anything, but you have an injury, your shoulder injury.
Yeah.
And I had talked to some guys at Nationals, Strongman Nationals, when Megan was competing there, about guys that had like PRP injections and shit. And there was guys that had done it for bicep, partial bicep tears that really they weren't going to operate on, that they said made a world of difference. And I had a couple guys with shoulder injuries, obviously not knowing the nature of theirs or yours, but they said it had just worked wonders. Fortunately here, Professor Schanz has gotten PRP injections. Before we go any further,
So we have real first-hand info here.
We usually don't go down that avenue.
How are we supposed to just make guesses on stuff
Mostly
if we have?
speculative.
First off,
only having
I'm gonna
half of an
speculate
understanding.
first. PRP injections, if you don't know, totally just steroids and steroids
The
and narcotic
purest form of
drugs,
steroids.
basically. And that's basically if you're Schanz's parents, you should be worried.
It's a mixture of steroids and marijuana.
Steroids and injectable marijuanas.
Wow.
So
I'm glad my parents don't listen to this.
they're really missing out.
They are.
But if you want to back up actually and tell us what PRP injections are and what maybe
And
is behind
why'd you get it and where'd
Sure.
you get it? And
Sure. Well, first off, PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. What they do is they draw your blood, they stick a little plunger thing in, then they slowly draw it out, and then they stick it in a centrifuge and they spin it and they separate it. And this plasma, this platelet-rich plasma, separates at the top. They put that in a needle and just inject it.
So does
basically
that
to
all
wherever-
happen in one day?
Yeah, it happens in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Is that what happened to Captain America? Is that
Something.
why he got
Something. A lot of platelet-rich plasma.
I fucking knew it.
So, yeah, I mean, I was probably there for a total of 30 minutes, but the whole process took 10 minutes. And the doc, he's like, your knee's probably going to be feeling a little cranky for a while after this. And for the first couple of days, it really did, but after that, it subsided. Some people, just depending on probably your age and whatnot, you might feel worse for a longer amount of time. And then based on what I understood, anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, you should start seeing improvements if you're going to get improvements for it. I thought at about week 3, my knee was feeling better than it had, and I was taking it pretty easy on it. And then kind of as soon as I start to push it again and try to do some quad dominant stuff, that's what really bothers my knee. First of all, let everybody know, chondromalacia is what I have. It's just the wearing out or thinning of cartilage right underneath your kneecap. So anytime I try to do real quad dominant stuff, my knee kills me. And like I said, it was feeling good when I was taking it easy, and then as soon as I started to just try to do some squats and stuff that were real quad dominant, my knee was just garbage again. So I don't know. my feelings of it are kind of mixed. Probably not worth the money I spent on it. About $500 cash, because it's not covered by insurance, so that's an important thing for people to know. Some places I've heard it's as much as $1,000. And then like Regenix is a company that specializes in kind of this restorative type medicine, and they will do PRP, and they have some specialized process where they increase the amount of platelets and they increase the amount of plasma, and it's like this super dosed, PRP injection. It costs like $1,800 for them. So yeah, it's not cheap.
Why generally is PRP so expensive? You said it took you 30 minutes, maybe 10 minutes when you really drilled down to it. What is there?
We got a centrifuge.
Well, that's what I mean.
Just fucking do it.
What equipment do they have that makes it so
if
expensive?
you want me to get
in
a whole tangent about why healthcare is so expensive in general,
healthcare is expensive? Is that
yes, that is the answer.
Yeah.
That is the answer, because at one point getting a saline IV bag was $800 in America. So,
but PRP is never covered by insurance. So shouldn't this be outside of that? Like, this is kind of like more comparable to maybe like chiropractic care or something like that.
I would say though, because it's because it is outside of insurance, it probably falls more along the lines of like getting fake tits. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Schanz got the equivalent of fake tits for his knees.
Fake tits in his knees.
That's what he paid.
No, I kind of see what you're saying.
I think we got the title.
It should be outside the system.
So like LASIK eye surgery is something that wasn't covered by insurance, and after like decades, the price is very reasonable for a surgery. And I think maybe in time, if they can prove the efficacy of it, and you get more people doing it, there's more competition. That'll bring down the price, but it's a little too fringe right now. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot. I mean, there's research behind it, or they wouldn't be doing it at hospitals. But there's not, very good research.
It's like we're the guys doing this, and this is what we're charging. If you want it, come and get it. If not, good luck finding someone.
Exactly.
So to take this kind of back to the beginning a little bit, because other than knowing that PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma,
it's a tongue twister.
It is. I don't know almost anything about this. So my first questions are: is it just like an IV? Like they just draw the blood just like that, basically? I mean, just not like out of your arm?
Yeah, they just stick a needle in there, and it's hooked up to this special like plunger type thing, and they just plunge out a little bit of blood. They draw it very slowly.
So they have to take it out of your arm, or?
I think that's pretty typical.
So they take the blood out, they go do their thing, they come back. Where do they inject it? Like, is it get injected at the site?
I would imagine it just depends on, what body part or what injury you have or having it done. For like my knee, they did it on the lateral portion, like the outside. There's this sort of soft spot, like kind of right underneath your kneecap, and that's where they. It was a thick, long needle though, and I was like, oh,
so
damn,
did it
this
seem
is
like
gonna
it was
hurt.
right in there, like right up underneath your kneecap, or?
No, it didn't feel like they stabbed it right in under. I mean, it was actually not as painful as I thought it would be.
Is it because they put an ice cube on it to dull the pain?
They did not do that. No, he's just like, this may sting, and I was expecting it to hurt, but it wasn't bad at all. I had actually had Prolotherapy done at one time.
Which is what?
So basically,
fake knee tips. One for each knee.
Yeah. More or less.
So when you wear shorts and they give you the perfect amount of underboob on there.
Basically, what they do is it's another injection, but it's like a sucrose, like a sugar injection, and what it does is promote like an inflammatory response. But with them, they had to. So I had it done in both my knees and my shoulder actually, and it was like 25 injections per joint, and like. They give you some lidocaine with it to like numb it, but I don't know if the lidocaine didn't work for me or what, but like each injection hurt like hell, and I had to do 25 of them. Damn. So this is what I was expecting PRP to be like it was going to be multiple injections or whatever. And I was going to be in there, I was going to have blood dripping down my arm or down my knee, and no, it was one injection, and it was very painless in comparison. So
Okay. And then with this, because you said it is different than kind of your traditional or it's not recognized like in the same way that like insurance will cover it.
Right.
Are you just going to like a regular clinic and doing this, or is this like a real specialized place?
No, it was just kind of a regular clinic. I've been seeing a guy who kind of specializes. He's an orthopedic surgeon guy, so he specializes. And he's got some sports background, so that's why I like him, because sometimes you can get orthopedic guys who don't know how to work on athletes, and that's
They
that's
just
a
studied
big
orthopedic
difference.
stuff in school, and
They're dealing with
like,
old people
old
with knee
people.
replacements.
Tanner, I
and
think
stuff
you kind of
like
had
that.
someone that basically said, "You're 30 years old. Why are you lifting weights?"
Yeah, it's, the whole thought of like physical training is like not even recommended by many doctors. Like, isn't that like
that super weird?
That alone is like a whole separate topic of insanity. But like,
You're like, you exercise?
Yeah,
What
the
are you,
act of
fucking
exercising.
stupid?
Whoa,
is
you're
like,
not a kid anymore. Slow it down.
it's like a foreign concept.
Or like, have you tried getting diabetes yet? You should be there already.
Or if they do promote exercise, it's cardiovascular.
Yes.
Strength
Yeah.
training
Yes.
is even more
Yeah,
foreign to
strength
them.
training, yes.
And they're like, weight training?
And I think that's because of the
That's
lack
bad
of
for your knees.
like a lack of knowledge.
Sure.
Like
Well,
you're not going to recommend something you don't.
And the other thing, it's like a doctor
understand.
at that point. Their job is like, oh, he came to me with a shoulder problem. Well, he probably did it from bench pressing because fucking look at him. And then they're just like, well, stop bench pressing, dummy. And it's like, but the problem is like, you don't get put into the nursing home for many reasons other than like because you can't exist in the world on your own.
Yeah.
And usually that's because you can't get up off the fucking ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't like pick things up and put away. You can't
Obese,
go get your own fucking
obesity,
groceries.
yeah.
Like, you know, like that's usually still is about strength. Now, you don't need a 1,000-pound squat, but the thing is, your starting point. There's a point with which you're training, and your strength will deteriorate, and your starting point is important in where that ends up. So, like, you may have 20, 30 years of deteriorating strength before you're dead at 90 if you're lucky. Well, like, if you're 60 and you're fucking skin and bones and you never lifted a day in your life, and I see people that come in who are, even young people who come in who are 20, 30 years old, who are so weak. I mean, a level of physical weakness that I can't even fucking imagine they've gotten this far. Like, we joke around about bringing all your groceries in one shot. I've seen people who I don't know how they carry their baby. And I'm dead serious. Like how you put a baby into the deal because they can't do anything with their bodies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is you at 30. What the fuck is going to happen to you? And you're like, I don't want to get bulky. I was like, well, you don't even have anything. Listen, if you got bulky, it'd be the best fucking thing that happened to you. Mm-hmm. You know? And like, and at 70, if that's your starting point,
and
it's
going to deteriorate
and you get
from
worse
there.
between now and 70, and then you're going to be incapable of existing in the world, aside from just being old. What happens if you get into a car accident in 10 years? Because I promise you, if I get hit by a truck, I'm going to be much more likely to not get fucking ripped in half than some of these people I see.
One of the big things when you get older you hear about is balance all the time.
Yes.
And people's balance are off. And if you look at the carryover between strength and balance, there's a ton.
That's
like
what
balance
balance
is strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people talk about having balance training programs for adults or for like seniors, old people. Just get them lifting weights.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to do specialized balance training.
Balance is very simple. Just sneak up someone and try to push them over. No, not training, but I mean, come up behind me and try to push me over. Well, do you think I'll fall on my face? Probably not. Yeah. Try to push Tanner over, but go try to push somebody who's
never
120 pounds and never done anything.
Yeah.
Like they will fall all the way to the ground. You'd be like, oh shit, sorry, I was just joking. You know what I mean? Like. That's the shit where you can accidentally fuck your whole world up, and but that's the deal. You go to that doctor, he's like, "Well, stop lifting weights," and it's like, "Well, then what?
Yeah,
I just get weaker between now and the day I die."
And also, like, on a separate note, if I'm the patient, I'm the customer. I'm telling you, I want to do that.
Yes.
Like, how can you? What can you do for me to aid me in that process?
And it's not like you're saying, I want to continue to drink 6 bottles of wine a day or something like that.
This is
I want
my
to continue to be healthy. Help me.
Regardless of your personal beliefs on that, like, I want you to help me do that because that's what I want to do,
Yeah, and I mean, I was lucky with my doctor. I think he's a big guy. Like he's got to be over 300 pounds, and you can tell he still lifts weight. So I mean, I liked him immediately, and he's like, yeah, we'll do whatever we can to just help you continue to live the lifestyle you want to live because that's important. And I'm like, well, because this guy's great.
Yeah, because they can come to you and just be like, well, the injury is the problem. Let's not do the thing that caused it. But they don't understand that you're a person with a lifestyle, and their job is to get you back to that lifestyle, not to just be like, now your shoulder doesn't hurt, hooray, and then you're going to put a gun in your mouth in 5 years because you don't get to do all the things that you like.
Well, if Antonio Brown or whoever, some NFL football player goes to the doctor, I broke my leg playing football this year.
And they're like,
well, you got to quit playing football.
Yeah.
It's like,
those guys, those guys are trying to tackle you. It's crazy.
Or like Travis Pastrana, falls off his motorcycle and they're like, that's really dangerous, And it's
he
like,
probably should quit, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but yes, it's dangerous. Like, that's the life I've, that's the decisions.
And really, in the scheme of things, we're not really talking dangerous. We're just talking about being able to move your body with a little more weight than someone else.
Yeah, it's even in comparison to that, it's far less drastic. It's much more simple than that. Even
There's a quote that I've always liked that goes, "Live your life so that when you're in your 50s, you end up on an orthopedic surgeon's table and not a cardiovascular surgeon's table." And that really resonated with me, and I think, that's the way to go about it.
Mostly anyone that lifts, I mean, Rick, you can relate to that in some way, that's true.
Well, and plus, let's be real, would you rather hurt your shoulder bench pressing 500 pounds, or would you rather, hurt your back trying to pick up a fucking goddamn potato that you dropped on the floor in the kitchen? For real. Yeah. I've had clients that had to cancel appointments because they're like, I think I threw my back out trying to get my shoes on. And it's like, whoa, that's where we're at. That's you got to be Jesus Christ. That should be a red flag for you.
Age catches up with, it's inevitably going to catch up with everyone in some capacity or another anyway. So
it will catch up with everyone no matter what.
Right, exactly, no matter what at some point in time.
But I think people who lift weights extend their very active, livable, good years. Even if two people live to be 80, 85 with completely different lifestyles, their quality of life, the people who lift weights have some muscle mass left, is going to be, infinitely better than someone who's just scraping by, might be in a wheelchair or whatever, can't get up and down the steps.
Two people die at 85. At the very least, the one that lifted for as long as they could probably was at least more fuckable for longer. Right? Yeah. That other guy got into a very sad place way sooner.
And when we talk about lifting like that, it doesn't necessarily mean trying to squat 700 pounds until you're 60. It's
it's just doing something.
Yes. Yeah. There is a shelf life on all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We understand that we're not.
It's not like a linear trajectory where I'm just going to keep lifting. So if I do it for 20 years, I'll be squatting 2,000 pounds.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So back to the PRP then. What is, in your personal experience, what can you say about the effectiveness or?
I think Tyler was touching how some other people had it done on more soft tissue injuries, and I think it's probably more effective
in a torn pec or
muscle injuries, muscle tears, maybe tendon and ligament stuff. Cartilage is the worst because it has the least amount of blood flow. It's just a very odd tissue.
It's basically a fucking dead tissue in your, you know what I mean? There's just nothing.
There's very little blood flow, and it's so unique. It's I think cartilage, the pounds per square inch that it can absorb, they don't have any other material like it on the planet. It's so unique, and there's, as we talked about, there's no blood flow, and it's a tough tissue to heal and get back. So I think people probably have better luck with different injuries that aren't cartilage related, and I can't say I wouldn't recommend it. Like I said, I thought I felt better when I wasn't, pushing my knee, and I was just going about my everyday life, going up and down stairs and whatever. I felt better, but as soon as I tried to push it again, it was still crap. So I think I'm gonna actually end up going in and having it scoped, and we'll see how that goes.
So what does it do though? The platelet
Good question.
What is it supposed? Or
No one knows.
What does it either do, or what is it?
It did
What's it
nothing.
supposed to do? And if it is helping someone, what do you think? What's it doing?
So with the platelet-rich plasma part, it's supposed to be a concentrated source of like growth factors, healing factors, nutrients, and you inject it, and it creates. I hope I'm saying this right. Milieu, like a healing milieu in the knee, like sort of a situation foundation for with your knees sort of bathed in for a while that allows it to heal.
It's pronounced voodoo.
So I mean that's I don't know the separate growth factors or whatever that are in it, but I think that's the general idea behind it. So
And how about the what did you call it? Where not the injection of your own blood, but the other thing you tried? What was that?
Oh, the Prolotherapy.
What about that as far as recommending that to people, or what's your opinion on
Same
that?
thing. I think all the injection stuff's going to be more effective to places that have higher blood flow. I think. My dad had it like he had an ankle that he had rolled over the years, just terribly, like I don't know, probably a dozen times, just blowing it out, and it was shot. And all those tendons and ligaments were stretched and damaged and scar tissue. And he would walk, and like his ankle would pop all the time, and he couldn't walk very long, and he'd get kind of like a dead foot, and he
Flop
couldn't lift
around,
it.
yeah.
So he's had 5, 7, 8, 10 treatments on it over the years, and his ankle's much stronger. It doesn't crack now. He had good results with it, and again, it's in an area where you're talking there's more blood flow. It's not the cartilage related like it is with mine.
This is the Prolotherapy.
This is the Prolotherapy. So that's what made me try that first, because of the success he had with it. But it was much too freaking painful to try again for not getting any results out of it.
What about, we had talked about also, just off the air about the potential application of stem cell for something like this. Have you heard anything as far as stem cell injections being used in this case or similar cases?
The clinic where I went to get my PRP done also does stem cell injections.
Okay, so I didn't know if that was legal or what. Stem cells always seem like they're such a fringe
It's
thing.
legal. It's just weird in the way they have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get.
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't know where the
It's
world
a
was at
weird
with
regulation.
that. Okay.
Yep, and that's unfortunate because I think there's a lot of future application for stem cells. But yeah, anyway, the first ortho I went to before I got referred to kind of this guy who's dealt with more athletes, he was like, yeah, I just went to a seminar on stem cells. There's some good research on it. He's like, we could try it out, whatever. I went to this other guy who's a little more versed with athletes, and he goes, no. He's like, there's no research that shows for what you have, with your chondromalacia, that it's going to help your cartilage. I haven't seen any research, none good published research. So he's like, I don't recommend it.
Now that is, to back up, that is specifically for your condition.
Yeah.
You and he probably
Cartilage-
both believe that it's very effective in lots of other cases.
The cartilage-specific stuff is what he said, that it didn't. There wasn't any effective research for it, but there are obviously other applications where it's useful, or people still wouldn't be using it. He did say that you could have some of your stem cells taken, and then you fly them to like the Virgin Islands or something like that, and you have them cultured for like $70,000, and then you get these millions and millions and millions of stem cells, and then you can come back and have a procedure where you basically, I think he said you have, it's a pretty invasive procedure. You have your kneecap basically flipped open, and they slather it on the inside of your kneecap,
like
and
peanut butter.
pretty much. And he's like, yeah, that's, I mean, if you're going to have stem cells, maybe that's an effective way to do it. But I'm like, nobody has $70,000
I also
cash.
feel like if
sorry.
they're going to lop your kneecap open, they could do lots of other things while they're there.
And then,
Like put boobs
put
in
a
there.
new knee in, maybe a set of fake tits.
oh, man. The Regenix company I talked about last time that had the PRP that was like $1,800, they have stem cell procedures where they supposedly can take your own stem cells, and I think culture them, increase the amount more than like the other clinic where I go to, where they have it for $1,000. They have some super process like they do with the PRP, where they're able to get a increased efficacy from the injection, and theirs was like $7,800, and I was like, So that's cash too, because that's not covered by insurance. I'm like, even like if it has to be super effective, first of all, if I'm going to spend that much money.
I'd be like, at that point, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and send me the bill. And then when my knee doesn't hurt in a year, I might start making some payments.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah. Who needs knees?
You'd be better off probably just hold off until fake knee technology gets.
That's why I'm hoping sometime in the 5-10 years they'll have some.
They'll
some
3D
awesome
print
procedure.
a kneecap for you.
There you go.
Slap it in there. $100, you're done.
I think the moral of this story, Schanz, is that pimping just ain't easy.
Pimping ain't easy.
I could summarize it in one sentence.
That was kind of the impression I was getting too out of this.
Yeah, and don't get breast implants, I think is the other one. Honestly, we're going with here.
I think we talked a lot of people.
Boobs on your knees are pretty cool.
Out of elective surgery.
If you have knee troubles, don't get a breast implant.
Well, just not there.
Like
I mean, you can still go ahead and get them, just not underneath. Well, we are about out of time here, guys. I'll kind of give the main rundown for what we have. We have, make sure you go to Massenomics.com. There you're going to find our store. What do we have for sale in the store right now? We got the lift banners.
What don't we have for sale in our store right now?
Oh my God! I think a recent buyer said it was like the Amazon of lifting.
Yeah,
it's just such a vast.
Yeah, the Amazon/Walmart of lifting. If you could combine Amazon and Walmart and make it about just lifting things, that's Massenomics.com.
Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah. Shipping's
People
not
love
free, but it's kind of like Amazon otherwise.
We need Prime memberships to Massenomics.
That's
2-day free shipping.
We could do that.
But no, we've got
$50 a month.
full restock of the Flex Flask. Every color, every logo. We've got them all on hand. If you want one again, there'd been a lot of people that were upset. We were out of quite a few of them, for a week or two here, and there's a lot of people that wanted them, so they're back in there.
Darn near beating down the door, I heard.
Yeah, it's like an angry mob.
Yeah, no, the people have been showing up at my house, like at all hours of the night, waking
from
up my
different
family.
parts of the country.
Yeah, driving to Aberdeen,
You're like,
South
I heard you have free local pickup.
We've got a few of the Weekend Warrior Lift sweatshirts. Not very many. If you do want one of those, this is not
Literally
even just
your
bullshit.
last shot.
This isn't just bullshit like us telling you this to get you to buy them. If you want one, order one right now, and don't ask me again when it's out, when we're going to get more of them, because we're not going
to.
Yes, so
This is a one and done deal.
So if you want it, order it right now. Don't in a month ask when we're getting more.
Yeah,
that's your warning.
The lift sweatshirts will be a OG only deal. You're gonna get
This is something you have to be responsible with and actually pull the trigger on.
Other than that, the Weekend Warrior Lift T-shirt, which is always
a perennial favorite.
Yeah, perennial favorite, is fully stocked in every size from extra small all the way up to 4XL.
Has anyone bought all sizes for themselves yet?
Not yet, but
someone listening could be the first person.
A guy this week bought an XL and a small. He got it. The day that he received that order, he decided that wasn't enough. He ordered a large. So he's ordered 3 sizes.
I dare someone out there to be more ballsy than that guy.
He ordered 3 sizes
and
this week.
I want the person who orders the extra small all the way up to the 4X. I want that person to actually be an extra small and have really lofty goals for their next couple of years.
Just I want to throw that guy's name out because he did. It would be worth mentioning here. I know I've got it.
Because he's the real deal.
Yeah. What is it?
We're searching hard.
Vincent Claren, not who I was talking about, but he did buy 2 sizes this week in 2 separate orders.
That's pretty cool, too.
Yeah. I'm going to forget it. I'm pretty sure it's Nicholas.
Was it Saint, maybe his first name? It was Christmas.
It was Vincent. Vincent Claren.
Vincent.
So, yes, you're the guy.
Way to go, Vincent.
Yeah.
I think you're probably winning the competition for owning the most sizes of the Weekend Warrior.
But not the competition for who owns the most Massenomics stuff in general out there. I'm going to have to go with our friends from Alabama, Bacon and Barbells.
Like, if they own much more stuff, they will have more of it than we do.
Yes.
And we'll have to be talking to them about getting...
Between some of the stuff that they may have that we don't stock anymore, they may have more stuff than we have. Which is good.
That's Jonathan
Oldham?
Yeah, I don't.
Yep.
Is it Oldham?
I believe so. I might be
always
pronouncing it wrong.
in my head. I always
order.
bacon barbells.
Bacon
That's
barbells
what,
on Instagram. Hit
like,
them up. Massenomics OG.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of it for the store, right? But get everything. It's all there. It's all the shit. It helps us pay for all this stuff that we pay for, like flying Schanz in international flights.
Not cheap.
Yeah, he's a man about town. So while you're there, though, make sure you check out all our articles, videos. Schanz writes a lot of the science-based stuff. So obviously, if you listen today, he's the only one here who knows anything about anything.
That's
why we
not
keep him
true.
around.
You guys are also smart guys.
And we're pretty, too.
What we lack in intelligence, we also lack in looks.
We make up for it in a very wide variety of shirts that can be bought on our websites. We lack in intelligence, we make up for it in
We
shirts.
figure if we do it, we do a lot of things bad, but if we do enough of them, like it aggregates to something good.
Yeah.
So,
Enough negatives makes a positive.
also, all of our podcasts are archived there as well. If you want to go back, check up some back episodes if you're not into the iTunes world. Also, at the bottom of the page there, you scroll to the bottom at Massenomics.com. There you can sign up for our newsletter. We do roll out coupons, super promo sales. You're also the first ones to get heads up on our pre-orders. There's some pre-orders that we only advertise to email list subscribers just so we can hook up the OGs, make sure we get the sizes right before we release the main deal. Also, if you have any official business, sponsorship stuff, money stuff, you want to pay us money, send us money, give us money. Money
thing.
Email us at getbig@massenomics.com. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm Tyler. You can find me on Instagram at Tyler F. and Stone, Tyler EFFIN Stone, and Tommy.
You can find me at Tomahawk_D.
And Tanner.
The official Massenomics Instagram account at Massenomics.
And Schanz.
Is this the first time I can actually say where someone can find me
Probably.
on Instagram?
We
at
pimped your Instagram.
Yeah, we do
for
it.
you.
We do it for you too. So.
No, I have like a total of 6 pictures on there right now, so sorry, I'm not very interesting.
On basically about to be one of the most popular pages on Instagram. Schanz can be found at
Professor Schanz.
Professor Schanz. And the Schanz is spelled Schanz.
Correct.
Righteous.
I make sure to tag you in things.
You
and
do
stuff,
tag
so
me
you-
a lot.
Yeah. So if Schanz doesn't post a lot, you can click on his tags.
Yeah.
And you'll see things that he's involved in.
Yeah.
It's not very cool.
Secondary.
But
Dirty,
you can see
unspeakable
them.
things.
So do you use it ever, or where are you at on that? Like, I mean, just do you ever
Browsing.
check your do you ever
Instagram?
Yeah. Do you you browse around very
I
often?
probably browse once a day.
Yeah.
I'll get on
So that's
there,
a lot more than originally what you thought or had said. You know, you use it more than that.
When I first
That's
got
about
it,
how often I use it.
It never stops once it starts.
once a day.
It's once a day
One house, I
from
just
from
on
5
Instagram.
a.m. until midnight.
Yeah, basically.
what I don't get is how these people, they will post a picture on Facebook and then the same one on Snapchat and then the same one on Instagram. And I'm like, doesn't that get exhausting?
Well,
Trying to
no.
post
Well,
it.
but
and
a lot of
it's
those people,
daily. It's
that is where their
daily.
livelihood comes from.
Yeah.
Though, is the crazy part.
Now, in their defense, in my defense, Schanz, I know he's firing shots over here. Your Facebook and Instagrams can be linked. So I will choose not every post, but if there's some, especially some of the business stuff, where I'll be like, all right, I do want this one across both platforms, and so I'll just when I go to post it, you can choose publish to Facebook as well. Snapchat though, those people are
That's the one that
very
surprised me when
convoluted
people
route.
have a
They have to,
long
screenshots.
Yeah,
and
like they have a
move or
long
download.
Snapchat story and then the same things on Instagram. It's like
And they're doing that shit one at a time.
that takes a little bit of work there. That's
Yeah.
not just
Yeah, that's bananas.
yeah.
It's impressive social media dedication.
Yeah, well, we can't all have only 6 posts.
You could.
It's too late now.
Yeah,
The
it's
cat's
too
out of
late
the bag.
now, yeah.
So, but thanks a lot for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next week. Stay strong.
You just heard the Massenomics podcast.
Okay, bye.
With your ears. You're welcome. Check us out on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Massenomics, and make sure you visit Massenomics.com and buy some of that sweet Massenomics gear. From your friends at Massenomics Studio, home of the world's strongest podcast, stay strong.